Welcome to my mixed media tag tutorial. I've speeded things up to save you a bit of time. To start off with, I'm using a light modelling paste through a stencil to create a bit of texture on the background. This one's butterfly shaped. And I'm just using the palette knife to apply that, but you could use anything. Just apply a thin coat, as you want this to dry quickly. It doesn't actually need to be that thick for this project. So baby wipe, just to wipe off the excess around the edges and also to get rid of bits where I've gone outside of the stencil. Now I'm taking a heart-shaped stencil, and again with the light texture and the light modelling paste. This one hasn't got any grains in it, so it's smooth. And I've had about £3 a pop, but you can make your own. There's recipes on YouTube. Okay, just getting a bit of a clean up. Now I should mention that I dried the butterfly using my heat gun before I started to work with the heart. So here you see me just using the heat gun to dry the design at the top of the tag. Now the tag is a giant tag from Furley Designs. This measures about 250mm by 133, and it comes as a pack of 3. This is just one of the design tops that you get. So here I'm just getting rid of some excess that was in the hole, and that's a retractable pencil, but it hasn't got any lead in it. I find it comes in handy. I get through a lot of baby wipes. I think other crafters do as well. Okay, this is an applique. It's too big for this project, so I'm just working out which part of the applique I'm going to use. I like appliques that I can fussy cut. I also fussy cut lace just to get the bit that I want. So just carefully sniffing off the piece that I'm going to use. Before I apply my lace, I'm applying a thin coat of gesso. I'm using a flat brush. I've been experimenting a bit with brushes, and I'm quite liking the flat brushes at the moment for this. If I'm gessoing something with a lot of texture, like flowers or deep metal embellishments, I'll use a really old stubby brush that it has been used a lot. It's a bit worse for wear. But for this sort of thing, I quite like my flat brushes. So you just need a thin coat of gesso. This allows your colours to pop when you apply them later. Make sure that you work it in between the areas where you've put your texture on. You don't want it clogging up those areas, or you will lose the pattern. So it's just a very thin coat. Sorry about my lighting, I'm still working on my setup. Okay, then a quick blast with a heat gun to get that dry. Now this hasn't been planned, I'm kind of going a step at a time. to plan out. So you'll find things suddenly appear. To make sure, because the edge of the tag is quite dark, I'm just going to give it a light coat of gesso, just to lighten the colour a bit, also to help it to take colour if I decide to colour around the sides. But it does lighten up the whole tag by covering up that dark bit. Sorry, I'm off camera. Nearly finished. Okay, that's done. I'll just put the hot glue gun on. And I'm just deciding where things are definitely going to go. So the applique's in place and I'm looking through my metal embellishments, looking for what I want to go on there. I'm a lover of cogs, so you'll find cogs turn up in a lot of my pieces. This one is a clock with a couple of cogs on. Flower box. I don't plan my flower arrangements. You'll see a bit later on when I do some more with the flowers. But at the moment I'm just trying to get an idea for what colours to use on this tag. So I've looked through my box and this is the biggest flower I have. And that's a kind of coral colour. So I like my metal embellishment, but it's a bit too dark, so I'm just giving it a couple of thin coats of gesso. Dries very quickly with a heat gun. Remember, it's metal, it gets hot. Just making sure that I don't lose the details with the gesso, just brushing it out a bit more. And then I'll give that a quick try. Okay. I like to position things where possible, so with the applique I'll lay it in place and then carefully turn a bit over. Apply some hot glue on the thickest parts where the glue won't show through. Once I'm happy with that, then I'll start gluing down the rest of the applique. So as I said, position it, glue down a little bit, make sure that's still positioned properly, and then start applying glue to other areas to get it in its final resting place. And I will be applying colour to the applique later. I don't want that to be white. And that's what I have so far, so that's my textures on. Okay, so I'm just cutting the stem off of the back of my flower, applying hot glue. And now I'm having to dig through my other flowers to see what I've got. Now, excuse the noise from outside. I like to store my flowers by type and by size, so I'll keep all of that type of flower, that shape of flower, in one bag, and I'll have all the colours that I have in that size in that bag. It's just how I store them, and then they all go into a drawer. These are my Fernley embellishments. I think that's my corners and flourishes I've got in that box. So I've decided I want to add some wooden embellishments to this corner. The one that I've got there is Corners Type 5, also known as Mangrove. And to get it to fit how I wanted, I've cut the long stem off. Bit of hot glue there. And then I'm going to take the stem that I cut off, bit of hot glue, and put that underneath the flower to stick out. So more flowers, different types. And remember, my flowers are not planned, they kind of just go where they go. I test it and see. I have made mistakes that way, but I'll show you later how I fix that. Okay, I like flat back pearls. They're my current thing for working with, especially when I'm doing flowers. I think they fit them really well. And if you're like me and you don't like big gaps between the flowers, it's a great way to fix that, especially the bigger ones. I just think it's a nice feel, nice touch. So wire cutters I think are a good investment because you use them a lot in different types of crafting. So for cutting off stems, it saves you scissors, and I do a lot of fits with flowers on, so that's really good. I also do, I try trade nail and a few other things, so they do get used a lot and they don't cost much. So again, I'm playing with the flourishes, trying to find some more to fit on. Can't quite get that one to work. I think that was a bit too chunky for there. So I've gone back to my old favourite, which is Corners Type 9. I love all the curly cues on that one. So I don't want the long bit sticking out for that part, so I'm just going to cut that off with my scissors. Hot glue. And I'm going to have that hanging just off the edge. I get through a lot of glue sticks. I think I'll do anywhere between 1 and 3 glue sticks per project, sometimes more. That's a large rosebud there. I like the rosebud, but the flower next to it's too flat for that position. So I'm using my heat gun to remelt the hot glue, and then that will lift off. Now, since the pearls happen to be at hand, I'm using one of the pearls to add a bit of height there. And then I'm going to reapply that flower that I stuck down earlier. And now I can put my rosebud in. Now I'm applying more flat back pearls, just as decoration. Just deciding which flowers to go with next. I like smaller flowers at the outer edge. I like the bigger flowers in the middle. Not sure why, it's just how I've always done it. Central one's a large one. Okay, so I've got that flourish out again that I had earlier. I keep coming back to this one. Still not working, so I'll put that to one side. And I'm back to my corners type 9. Now, I don't know if you can see, but I am actually gluing things over the applique. Right here I'm using a craft knife or a Stanley knife to cut pieces off the flourishes. Make sure that your knife is sharp, you'll see why later. This is not a sharp knife. Here I'm just taking the hot glue away from around the edges of the flourish, just to tidy things up a bit. And that bit I've just picked up is the tail end of a flourish 9 that I cut off earlier. Oh, sorry, corners type 9. So back to adding flowers. There was a blue one line in there. So the flowers I've used on this one are coral, cream, green, and I think I've got some white in there as well. Oh, and a couple of yellow ones. Now with this flower I wanted it to sit a bit higher, so I'm winding the wire on the back round and round to give me a bit of height before adding the glue, which is what I should have done on the other one that I stuck the pearl under. But there you go, like I said, I don't plan. Now the corners type 9, this is one I cut a bit off of earlier, just cut another piece off to use. Keep hold of those bits that you cut off because they can usually be used somewhere else on a project or on another project. Use a sharp knife, not that one that I was using. Just getting the positioning right before I add the glue. This is another piece that I cut off earlier. The reason I lie my glue gun down on the side is because for some reason I've had it about 10 years and the wire at the back stops it from standing up properly on its stand, so I've given up now. It just tends to lie down. So still adding flat back pearls. Mine are actually self-adhesive, but I find that it's not always that good, so I tend to hot glue mine down. If it's the really tiny ones, then glossy accents. For my flowers and flourishes. Oh, gone back for some more wood. So this flourish keeps coming out of the box for some reason, so I'm going to use that one. And that's from Flourish Set 5. Like I said, use a sharp knife. Just cut the long stem off because it doesn't fit where I want that bit of flourish to go, the curly bit. Double check positioning, then glue in place, just under the petals. and that's the long bit that I cut off. And again, gluing that in place under the petals. Okay, where my knife's not very sharp, I've managed to split that tail end into two, so I'm going to use the two bits separately. It wasn't completely rude. Just working out where they'll go. Clearing off the hot glue. And that's the other half of that stem. Okay, here I'm using my spray inks. So I have key lime, eye violet, coral berry and cranberry, and they're Radiant Rain by Luminate. Bit of kitchen roll. Probably needed a lot more than that, as you'll see later, but I didn't have any newspaper. But here I'm spraying everything with eye violet, which is a clear shimmer mist with an iridescent violet mica in it. It doesn't show up very much until it hits the light, but I wanted to make sure everything had a bit of shimmer, whether it had colour added to it or not. Dry in between applications of your shimmer mists, or they melt into one colour and you'll end up with brown. So here I'm using the coral berry, but it doesn't want to spray, it's got blocked. Rather than wait for sort that out, I'm putting it into a mini mister bottle. And I'll sort that out later on. Oh, wrong lid. Give that a quick try. This is key lime. It's a really bright, vibrant colour, very spring-like. So I'm spraying the tag, the metal embellishment and the lace, the applique. It's because it's so strong, I have dabbed a bit of the colour off, just to tone it down a little bit. I don't know about you, but I get through a lot of kitchen roll and a lot of baby wipes. I think they're two of my things I couldn't live without for crafting, for the type of crafting that I do. Just double checking that the colour still works, and now I'm about to apply the cranberry. So as you can see, it's quite a dark colour. So I'm just going to dot off a bit with kitchen roll just to tone it down a little bit. I think it looks like spring blossoms. I couldn't see the texture very much, so I've taken some Enchanted Gold Gildan wax, which is like a clear wax with a very pale gold. And what I'm doing is I'm going over all of the pattern that we created at the beginning with the stencils and the texture paste, just to make that pop a bit. So I won't show you all of me doing the gilding wax because it did take quite a while, but it makes that pattern pop. Now I'm applying a little bit of the gilding wax to the edges of the petals and to the edges of the wooden embellishments. To break up the colour a little bit, I'm adding splashes of the coral berry mist. I haven't got my technique down on that, it took me a while. Doing the same again with the key line. Quick dry. And now the cranberry. Right, cranberry's really dark when you dot it on, as you can see, so I will be dabbing some of that off. So just got light splatters, and I am splattering over the flowers as well. I decided some of it was a bit dark, so I'm now getting some Dilutions ink spray. This one's a white one. There's no mica in this and no shimmer, it's literally just colour. With their white one, it doesn't really stay white when you spray, so you can't spray something black and get white. What it mainly does is lighten the colours that you've used already. But if you splatter it the way I am at the moment, you will get white dots. So just adding a little bit of spray to lighten it up in the middle. Bit too much on the embellishments, so I'm just dabbing some of that off. Just a touch more. Okay, at this point I decided it needed some more. It needed something else, so I've got my Imperfection of Beauty and the text stamp, and the ink I'm using is Dusty Concord. It's a distress ink, and I won't be using an acrylic block. I'm going to use my fingers, simply because I've got a textured piece and I want to make sure I get in to where all the texture is. Okay. Clip wipe with a baby wipe. And then with my cloth, I'll wash that with soapy water later. Same again with my text stamp. Now I use my fingers with this all the time, and it allows me to get different bits of the text in different places depending on how much of my fingers I use. It stops it being samey and blocky. I quite like doing this technique. It's great with a whole host of mixed media projects, and I do this with butterflies and words and all sorts of bits. I just use parts of the stamp. Great with textures too. Texture stamps, I should say. There you go. So at this point I decided I wanted to add some more flourishes, so I'm just working out how I can apply them. And these are flourishes 3. They come in a pack of 6. You get 3 different sizes, and I'm using 2 of them now. It just makes a gorgeous thick flourish. This is the rest of the applique I had earlier, just working out how I can use that. Just trimming off a little piece. Okay, and now I'm digging through my other embellishments, seeing what I can put down, because the right hand side feels a bit empty. It took me a while, I have to say. I tried out a lot of different things, a lot of different keys, because I have a few. And in the end I decided on one of the original ornate keys that Fernie make. They come in a pack of 5, I think. You get 5 different designs. So I've decided I want to colour my wooden flourishes, my embellishments, that I want the colours to pop. I don't want them to be dark, so I'm giving a light coat of gesso. You can spray directly onto the wood, that it tends to soak it up a bit, and it tends to be a little bit darker than what I wanted. And I wanted these quite bright and cheerful. If I'm going for intense colour, then I don't use the gesso. So I'm just being quite quick with this. It's a flat brush, so you don't get too much down the sides. Just going where I want it. Bit last. Okay, so again with the key lime, I decided it's a bit bright, so I took some of the colour off. And then when it was dry I realised I'd taken off too much, so I added some more. Oh, it's a lovely soft green. So now I've got my key, and this one's going to be cranberry. But I didn't want the whole key cranberry, I want the colour in some places. And I didn't want it too intense, so that's why I'm just grabbing some off. Here's my wooden pieces. So just checking positioning again now, deciding how and where things are going to go. Just applying hot glue to the flourish in the larger areas. And just like I did with the climbing applique, I've kept one in place so I know where to put the second piece down, and then I've done the same again with the other flourish. So I've got things just where I want them. Putting the applique back down again to make sure my key position's correct. I didn't want it too high up. More hot glue. Now my applique is too white for the piece, it just stands out too much. So I'm giving it a spritz with eye violet, just to give it that shimmer. And then I'm going straight in with the coral berry, without drying it in between. And give it a quick blast with a heat gun because I'm going to add another colour. And now I'm going in with the cranberry. And lastly the Dilutions ink spray in white, just to lighten everything up. For some reason it was spraying out very direct and not in a splatter pattern. I think it just needs a quick wash, so I'm using another mini mister rather than make you wait while I wash that. Over everything, just to lighten it up while I dry it. Lovely soft pastel corals and purples there now. And this is my finished tag. Thank you for watching. Please ask questions if you have any.